After years of relentless effort, I crossed the finish line of my college journey alone. A few days later, I stepped into my parents' house, only to be met by my sister's mocking grin. "Your degree's worthless," she said. My phone showed 37 missed calls. One text message glared at me, "You owe us an apology." That's how my graduation day ended. My name is Patrick. I'm 22, and last June was supposed to be the pinnacle of my pride. I'd clawed my way through college with little support, juggling late-night diner shifts, tutoring gigs, and freelance work to keep my apartment's bills paid. My graduation was the moment I could prove, to myself, and maybe my family, that I'd achieved something worth celebrating. But as I crossed the stage, not a single familiar face greeted me from the crowd. Not my mom, my dad, or even my grandmother, who never missed a Sunday sermon. The empty seats in the family section felt like a spotlight on my isolation. My younger sister, Julia, is 2 years my junior, and she's always been the family's darling. They've always claimed she's delicate, needing extra attention, which really meant she got everything she wanted. At 16, she had designer clothes, fancy shoes, and a car I wasn't allowed to borrow. Meanwhile, when my bike broke, I walked 3 miles to school. When Julia announced her pregnancy at 19, my parents spun it into a fairy tale. She wasn't a frightened teen making impulsive choices, she was a radiant young woman uniting the family. They threw her an extravagant baby shower, fit for a royal wedding. Guess when it was scheduled? The same day as my graduation. At first, I thought it was just bad timing. Maybe the venue was only free that weekend. Maybe they hadn't realized the dates clashed. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I even called my mom a month prior to confirm the conflict. "Oh, sweetie, we'll sort it out," she said. "Maybe we'll split the day." But as weeks passed, the truth became undeniable. Julia's baby shower. Invitations went out, with no mention of my graduation. When I raised it again, my dad said sternly, "Patrick, you'll have plenty of milestones, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for your sister." I sat in silence, gripping my phone so hard I thought it might shatter. How could they dismiss my 4 years of struggle? On graduation morning, I still held on to hope. I kept glancing at my phone, expecting a message saying they were on their way. Nothing. I scanned the university parking lot as families arrived with flowers and balloons. Still nothing. When my name was called, I knew they weren't coming. The applause for other graduates felt distant. I crossed the stage alone, forcing a smile for the dean, clutching the diploma that had cost me countless sleepless nights. As I stepped off, my phone buzzed. I checked it, hoping for a kind word. Instead, a text from my dad, "You owe us an apology." My heart sank. I reread the screen, certain I'd misread, but the word stayed, followed by 37 missed calls. 37. As if I'd done something wrong by wanting acknowledgement after being abandoned. I couldn't process it. Around me, friends' families showered them with hugs, flowers, and photos. I sat by a fountain, staring at my phone in disbelief. The text seared into my mind. Apologize for what? For existing outside Julia's shadow? For daring to want a moment of recognition? I wanted to hurl my phone into the water but shoved it in my pocket instead, clenching my fists until they ached. That was the moment a deep rift formed with my family. I'd tolerated the favoritism, the snide remarks, the endless excuses. But that text, that audacity, showed me their skewed priorities in full force. I didn't reply. Not then, not for the rest of the day. I walked home, diploma in a plain folder, no balloons, no flowers, no family dinner. Just silence. But I knew this was only the start. That text wasn't just a betrayal, it was a proclamation. If they wanted to play favorites, I wouldn't stay quiet anymore. Later that night, My phone was flooded with notifications, like my family had held a tribunal in my absence. My mom's voicemail started with her usual guilt-tripping tone. "Patrick, darling, this wasn't about you. We had to be there for Julia. Family comes first." The next was sharper. "You've humiliated us by ignoring your dad's calls. Julia was in tears because you didn't wish her well." By the third, my dad's voice boomed. "Answer your phone and stop being immature. You've upset your mom, and you need to apologize for your behavior." That word, apologize, haunted me since the ceremony, and seeing it again twisted something inside. I sat on my bed, staring at my bare apartment walls, my unopened diploma on the desk, and thought about how every milestone of mine had been diminished for family unity. My first job at 16. I was told not to boast because Julia was struggling in school. My college acceptance? We couldn't discuss it at dinner because Julia hadn't applied anywhere. Now, my graduation had been erased for her baby shower. 2 days later, I made the mistake of visiting my parents' house. I walked in, hoping a face-to-face talk might make them see my pain, only to find pink balloons still taped to the walls, confetti scattered on the floor, and baby gifts piled higher than the furniture. Julia lounged in a chair like royalty, scrolling her phone while my mom fussed over tiny clothes. "Well, look who finally showed up," my dad said, no warmth in his voice. No congratulations, no smile. He just folded his arms, already judging me. Julia didn't look up. "Got a gift for the baby?" she said, smirking. "We're still taking them." Her words weren't a joke, though she played them off as one. My stomach twisted. I'd spent my last savings on a suit for graduation, wanting to look proud crossing that stage. I had nothing left for her shower. "I came to talk," I said, keeping my anger in check. My mom cut me off. "Patrick, this attitude is unacceptable. We had to choose, and we chose Julia because she needed us more. You should have understood." I stared, waiting for her to backtrack, to say it was a misunderstanding. She didn't. To her, it was that simple. Julia needed them, so my graduation didn't matter. "I needed you too," I whispered, more to myself. My dad's eyes narrowed. "Don't start with that selfish nonsense. You think a ceremony compares to a new life? Be grateful we're even here to celebrate you now." "Celebrate me?" I looked around at the room, still decked out for Julia's shower, with no trace of my achievement, no card, no gesture, nothing but baby wrapping paper and toys. They didn't think I was worth celebrating. I was just a side note in their obsession with Julia. Julia finally set her phone down, smirking. "Don't pout. You'll get over it. You'll probably have another graduation for a master's, right? This was just a warm-up." Her casual cruelty left me breathless. She genuinely saw my years of grinding through college, debt-free, as a warm-up. I left without another word. As I walked to my car, my dad shouted, "You're not welcome back until you show some respect." The door slammed shut. That was it. That week, I watched Julia post baby shower photos online. There she was, glowing in a floral dress, surrounded by gifts and beaming relatives. Comments flooded in from extended family, "So proud of you, Julia. You'll be an amazing mom." No mention of me or my graduation. It was like I'd been erased from the family narrative. I hoped an aunt or cousin might reach out privately, but at a family barbecue weeks later, the truth hit harder than any online silence. "You know, Patrick," my uncle chuckled, "skipping your sister's big day was selfish." "You really put a damper on it," my aunt added. "We were all there, and it was beautiful. Your absence was noticeable." My absence. They acted like I'd chosen to boycott, like I'd snubbed Julia's moment to sulk about mine. No one cared that it was the other way around. That night, lying awake in my apartment, something inside me solidified. For years, I'd believed that if I worked hard enough, achieved enough, my family would see me. Now I knew no accomplishment could ever outshine Julia's pedestal. The realization hurt, but it brought a cold, clear resolve. I wasn't ready to act yet, though. Not then. First, I needed to see how far their favoritism ran. In the months after graduation, I kept my distance. Calls went unanswered. Texts were left unread. Family gatherings were politely declined. I told myself I was done chasing approval or bending for inclusion. But family ties pull you back, especially when guilt laces every word your parents speak. By summer's end, I cautiously considered reconciling. My grandmother, the one person who'd always supported me, kept asking when I'd visit. She saw the good in everyone, and part of me hoped things had settled enough for a fresh start. That hope didn't last. One Saturday, I drove to my parents' house. Laughter spilled from the open front door. Inside, the living room was packed with relatives, pale green balloons, and a banner reading "Welcome Baby Shower Part 2. I froze. Part 2. Julia hadn't even given birth yet. Apparently, one lavish shower wasn't enough. My parents had thrown another. As I stepped inside, hiding my shock, I noticed something else. Every relative was there, cousins, aunts, uncles. People who'd skipped my graduation without a thought were now crowded onto couches, holding plates of food and fawning over Julia's pregnancy like she was a star. My grandmother spotted me and hurried over, smiling. "Oh, Patrick, you came. I'm so glad." Her hug briefly felt like home. But then my dad saw me. His face hardened. "You weren't invited," he said coldly, his voice cutting through the chatter. The room quieted. "This is for family," he added, as if I didn't belong. Something in me broke, but before I could respond, Julia spoke from her pile of gifts and pillows. "It's fine, Dad. Let him stay, he can be useful," Julia said with a sly smile. "You can help bring in the gifts from the car. They're heavy, and I'm not supposed to lift anything." Laughter erupted from the room, some awkward, some genuine. I stood frozen, a fire igniting in my chest. Was I their entertainment now? A hired hand to haul boxes while they celebrated? I wanted to storm out, but before I could move, my mother appeared beside me, her hand on my arm. "Patrick, don't make this harder than it needs to be," she said. "Your sister's carrying the family's future. It's your responsibility to support her." Responsibility, her word choice stung, as if Julia's pregnancy outshone my degree, my years of effort, my entire existence. I clamped my jaw shut and followed Julia's boyfriend, Derek, to the driveway. He leaned against a gleaming new SUV, a smug grin on his face. "Good, you're here," he said, popping the trunk to reveal stacks of baby gear, strollers, car seats, diaper boxes. "We could use the muscle. I'd help, but, you know, bad back." He patted his side like it was a private joke. I grabbed the first box in silence, my only shield against the anger boiling within. When we returned, the room burst into applause, not for me, but for Julia, who was holding up another gift, squealing over tiny baby clothes. I set the box in a corner, catching snippets of conversation. "Patrick needs to be more supportive. I heard he skipped the first shower out of jealousy. Poor Julia, dealing with a bitter brother." Each whisper felt like another wall closing in. They hadn't just abandoned me on my graduation day, they'd rewritten the story to paint me as the villain. The breaking point came during dessert. Everyone gathered as my father tapped his glass with a spoon, calling for silence. "Before we cut the cake," he said, "I want to say something. Julia, we're so proud of you. You've united this family like nothing else ever could. You've given us meaning, a reason to celebrate. You're why we're here today." The room erupted in cheers. Then he looked at me. "And Patrick, maybe one day you'll learn to put family before yourself. Until then, we'll keep praying for you." The ground seemed to vanish beneath me. My own father, in front of everyone, reduced me to a selfish failure. Murmurs and gasps filled the room. Every eye was on me, waiting for a reaction. My grandmother's hand tightened around mine, but even her warmth couldn't dull the sting. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I stood there, my graduation ignored, my achievements erased, as my family cheered for the sister who'd never worked for anything. In that moment, something inside me shifted. The quiet resignation I'd carried for years hardened into resolve. This wasn't just favoritism, it was betrayal. I left the second baby shower without a word. No slamming doors, no shouting matches, just a calm walk out of the house into the evening air. The sound of laughter and clapping followed me down the driveway, fading as I shut my car door but echoing in my mind. As I gripped the steering wheel, I realized I hadn't touched the cake. Still, I felt sick. My phone vibrated on the passenger seat. New texts were piling up. I didn't need to check to know they were from my parents, probably scolding me for leaving early or upsetting Julia. I turned off my phone and drove home in silence. That night, I sat in my dark apartment, staring at the unopened diploma case on my desk. I hadn't hung it up. I hadn't even framed it. Why bother? Every glance at it brought my father's voice. Julia had given the family meaning unlike anything else. My milestone meant nothing to them. I kept replaying that moment, how everyone's eyes turned to me, not with pride, but with judgment, as if I'd committed a crime by existing outside Julia's glow. Days turned into weeks, and I withdrew further. I stopped checking family group chats, muted social media alerts, and spent evenings driving aimlessly through the city to avoid the silence of my apartment. At work, I wore a fake smile, but inside, I was drained. Friends would ask, "How was graduation? Did your family show up?" I'd dodge the question, changing the topic before the lump in my throat betrayed me. The loneliness cut deep. For years, I'd believed that if I worked hard enough, my family would see me. Now I knew the truth, no finish line would earn their approval. They'd chosen their story, and I wasn't in it. That realization left me empty. Even grocery shopping felt heavy. Passing young families, I saw parents lifting kids into carts, laughing together. Why couldn't my parents give me even a fraction of that care? The hardest part was my grandmother. She called often, her voice warm, always trying to mend things. "Patrick, your parents don't mean to hurt you," she said once, but her tone wavered. "They're just caught up with Julia right now. She needs them." She wanted to believe the best, but her hesitation was clear. I loved her too much to tell her the full truth. So I'd say I was busy or needed space. Then I'd sit in my quiet apartment, torn between craving her warmth and resenting the family she defended. One night, I got a voicemail from my father that cut deeper than the rest. His voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Patrick, your behavior is unacceptable. We've discussed it, and you're not welcome back until you apologize to Julia and the family. You're isolating yourself, and that's your choice. We'll pray you come around." There it was again, apologize. As if I'd betrayed them. I sat on my bed, clutching my phone, hands trembling. That word was a chain they wanted me to wear. But in the haze of pain, a new thought emerged. If I was already the villain in their story, maybe I didn't need to play their game. Maybe I didn't have to spend my life chasing their approval. I wasn't ready to act yet, I didn't have the strength. But in the quiet of my apartment, I started planning. Not dramatic revenge, but small steps to reclaim the pieces of myself they'd chipped away. Framing my diploma. Saving for a better apartment. Finding people who saw me for me, not as Julia's shadow. It was a fragile resolve, but it was a beginning. And if my family thought I'd stay the forgotten son, they were wrong, I wouldn't be invisible forever. The shift didn't happen overnight. It was subtle, like planting seeds in uncertain soil. I started with my diploma. One Saturday, I took it to a frame shop. The clerk helped me pick a sleek black frame with a clean finish. When I hung it above my desk, the apartment felt less hollow. That paper wasn't just a reminder of my family's absence, it was proof of my resilience. Every late-night shift, every article written at 3 a.m., every sacrifice was there, staring back at me. It was mine. Work became my next focus. I'd been in an entry-level job for months, doing grunt work and keeping quiet. But once I stopped pouring energy into pleasing my family, I leaned into my career. I took on projects no one wanted. I stayed late, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to master the details. My boss noticed. One day, she pulled me aside. "Patrick, I see your effort. How'd you like to lead the next project proposal?" My pulse quickened. It wasn't flashy, just spreadsheets and research, but it was a chance to prove myself on my terms. I threw myself into it. While my family planned gender reveals and baby photo shoots, I was up late watching presentation tutorials, refining my pitch until I knew it cold. When I stood before a panel of executives, hands sweaty but voice steady, I delivered every detail with a confidence I didn't know I had. After I finished, the room went quiet. Then the department head said, "That's the most polished proposal we've seen from a junior in years." My boss smiled, and for the first time in ages, I felt seen, truly seen. The recognition came with a small raise, loosening the knot in my chest. I upgraded my apartment, not to anything grand, just a one-bedroom with better light and a real kitchen. I painted the walls, filled shelves with books I'd always wanted, and bought a decent coffee maker. Slowly, the space became mine, not a reminder of my failures. The biggest change was social. I'd always been closed off, scarred from years of rejection at home. But as my confidence grew at work, I opened up. I said yes to drinks with colleagues, joined trivia nights, and let friendships deepen. Alex, a coworker, became a close friend. I told him everything, the missed graduation, the baby shower, my dad's text. I braced for him to think I was exaggerating, but he just shook his head. "That's rough, man. No wonder you're carrying that weight. But your worth isn't tied to them. You're building something real, and they can't take it." His words stuck with me. I'd spent years waiting for my family's validation, but an outsider showed me I didn't need it to exist. The more I focused on my growth, the clearer it became, I wasn't powerless. I noticed the contrast when I peeked at family updates online. Julia's baby showers, nursery reveals, and posts about motherhood's miracles dominated their feeds. But cracks showed through the gloss. Derek seemed less present with each month. Whispers among relatives hinted at money troubles and arguments behind closed doors. Meanwhile, my life was stabilizing. I wasn't rich or famous, but I had consistency, and I'd earned it. The real turning point came one evening when my boss called me into her office. "Patrick, I want you to apply for the management training program. It's tough, but you're a strong candidate." My chest tightened with shock. A year ago, I was the kid sitting alone at graduation, staring at a text demanding an apology. Now someone saw me as a leader. That night, I poured a coffee, sat under my framed diploma, and reviewed the application. For the first time, I didn't care if my parents approved or if Julia overshadowed me. I was thinking about what I wanted and how far I'd come. The validation I'd once sought from my family was growing within me. But the past lingered, heavy and sharp. Even as I built a life without them, I knew this wasn't over. The family that discarded me would come knocking again. And when they did, they'd meet someone far different from the boy they'd dismissed. It was almost surreal how the tides shifted. For the first time, I wasn't chasing scraps of approval, I was being sought out. My name started circulating in higher circles at work, not just for the management program but for my knack for handling chaos. When projects derailed, I was the steady hand people turned to as deadlines loomed. That reputation carried weight, and with it, came influence. When I was accepted into the management training program, it felt like stepping into a new realm. Leadership workshops, mentorship from executives, and strategy meetings opened doors I'd once thought were locked forever. Valerie, a sharp but fair CEO, took a particular interest in me. After a presentation, she pulled me aside. "Patrick, you've got something rare, grit. Don't let it go to waste. Learn to wield it." Her words became my guide. I dove into mastering not just how to lead teams, but how to navigate office politics, read people, and plan strategically. Slowly, I realized these skills could apply beyond work, because my family hadn't disappeared. They lingered in the background, curating their perfect online image. Julia had her baby, a boy named Noah, and the family acted like it was a divine event. My social media was flooded with photos of my parents glowing as grandparents, Julia wrapped in soft blankets with her miracle child, and captions about how family was everything. Family is everything. I nearly scoffed when I saw it. They'd rewritten history, making it seem like we were the picture of unity to anyone looking in. But truth has a way of seeping through the cracks. My cousin, one of the few relatives I still trusted, met me for coffee one day. "Patrick, you should know," she said, leaning across the table, "your parents have been asking about you. They're saying you're distant, that you've lost your way. They're framing you as the problem." My jaw tightened. Of course they were. Admitting they'd abandoned me didn't fit their narrative, so they painted me as the one who'd walked away. Then she dropped another tidbit. "Julia and Derek are struggling financially. He's barely working, and baby costs are piling up. Your parents are stressed, they're covering more than they can handle." I leaned back, my coffee turning bitter. Financial strain. Dependency. Fractures in their perfect pedestal. For years, I'd been the one scraping by, dismissed as a burden while they poured resources into Julia's every whim. Now, with their chosen star faltering, the dynamics were shifting. Unlike them, I'd built something solid, piece by piece, without their help. Around that time, my boss handed me a high-stakes account to manage. It wasn't just a step up, it came with a significant raise and, more importantly, exposure. Success would cement my name not just in my department but across the company. I worked harder than ever, channeling every ounce of pain and rejection into razor-sharp focus. When the project smashed records, I was offered a permanent management role. My salary doubled. My name started appearing in company updates. For the first time, I wasn't just getting by, I was thriving. I moved into a sleek new apartment with tall windows overlooking the city skyline. I bought a car that started reliably every morning. When I walked into meetings, people paid attention. I was no longer invisible. Then came my mother's first text. "Patrick, darling, it's been too long. Come see Noah, he's growing so fast, sweetie." The same mother who demanded an apology now dangled her grandchild as bait. A week later, my father called. I didn't answer, but his voicemail carried that familiar, controlled tone. "Patrick, it's time to move on. Your family needs you. Noah needs his uncle." Those words lingered. Your family needs you. For years, I'd needed them, and they'd turned me away. Now the tables had turned. As much as it hurt, it also sparked something fierce in me. For the first time, I held the upper hand. They needed me. And that realization, that intoxicating, dangerous realization, planted the seed of retribution. I didn't reply to their messages immediately. In fact, I let weeks pass. I kept my phone on silent, ignored every text, and deleted voicemails without listening. It wasn't about pettiness. It was about control. For once, they weren't calling the shots, and I wanted them to feel it. Then I met my cousin again. She grinned when she saw me. "Julia's been asking about you a lot. She and Derek are in deep trouble financially. Your parents are paying their rent now, and with the baby, they're overwhelmed." She lowered her voice. "They keep saying, if only Patrick would step up." Step up. The phrase burned. For years, I'd been ignored, mocked, and sidelined. Now that their golden child was struggling, I was expected to swoop in and save the day. No. Not this time. That weekend, I dressed sharply, a tailored navy suit, polished shoes, the kind of look that commanded attention. I drove my new car, gleaming under the sun, to my parents' house. I hadn't been back since that second baby shower, and pulling into the same driveway where I'd been relegated to carrying boxes brought a rush of memories. I rang the doorbell, and my mother's face lit up. "Patrick, oh honey, you're here." She pulled me into a hug, but I stayed stiff, my resolve unyielding. Inside, the house hadn't changed, still cluttered with baby paraphernalia, though the balloons were gone. Julia sat on the couch, holding Noah, while Derek scrolled his phone nearby. My father stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching me. "Good to see you finally showed up," he said, his tone implying I'd been the one absent all along. Julia looked up, offering a weak smile. "Noah's been asking for his uncle," she said, as if a baby could talk. "You should hold him." I glanced at the child, innocent and unaware of the family's dysfunction. "I'm not here for that," I said calmly. The room went quiet. My mother's smile faltered. "Patrick, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with that familiar guilt-tripping tone. "I came to set things straight," I said, my voice steady. "For years, I worked myself to the bone, paid my own way, and earned my degree. And you couldn't even show up to my graduation. You threw 2 baby showers for Julia on the same day, told me I owed you an apology, and made me feel like I didn't belong. Now you're struggling, and suddenly I'm supposed to step up." My father's face reddened. "You're being selfish again. This is about family." "No," I cut him off, surprising even myself. "This is about respect. I built my life without you. I'm not your backup plan when Julia's world falls apart." Julia's eyes widened, and Derek finally looked up from his phone, startled. My mother started to speak, but I raised a hand. "I'm not done. You made your choice. You picked Julia every time, and I'm done begging for scraps of your approval. I'm here to tell you I'm moving forward, without you." The silence was deafening. Noah fussed in Julia's arms, but no one moved. My grandmother, who'd been listening quietly, gave me a small nod, her eyes glistening with pride and sorrow. I turned to leave, but my father's voice stopped me. "If you walk out now, don't expect to come back." I paused at the door, looking back. "I don't plan to," I said. "But when you realize you need me more than I need you, don't expect me to come running." I walked to my car, the weight of years lifting with each step. Their stunned faces stayed with me, but so did the clarity. I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. I drove away, the city lights stretching out before me, a symbol of the life I'd built. Months later, I heard through my cousin that Julia and Derek had split. My parents were still footing their bills, stretched thin and resentful. They'd started asking about me more, wondering how I was really doing. I didn't respond. I was too busy, leading projects, mentoring new hires, and planning my next steps in the management program. My apartment was now a home, filled with books, art, and friends who saw me for who I was. The final twist came unexpectedly. One evening, as I was leaving work, my phone buzzed with a message from my grandmother. "Patrick, I'm so proud of you. I've told your parents they were wrong, and they're starting to see it. They miss you. But I know you're where you're meant to be. Keep shining." Her words were a bomb, but they didn't pull me back. I'd found my own light. My family had written me out of their story, but I was writing my own, and it was far from over. The boy they'd dismissed was gone. In his place was a man they'd never truly known, and I wasn't looking back.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.